Hi, guys. Get comfy because I tell you, I can feel a rant coming on. The news this week has set me off. I normally try and be very calm, rise above it, have a look at what's underlying these things. This week, I'm just over it. I am so over it. Anyway, let's start yet again with Elon Musk, right? Now, allegedly the richest man in the world. Now, he may or may not be. I always think that list is a bit of a furphy anyway, really. I mean, it's not as though the oligarchs get listed in Forbes magazine. So I'm sure there's people with more money than Elon, but we know he is uber wealthy. Okay. Now, like all uber wealthy men, for some reason in history, they follow the same trajectories as they did when they were 8 years old in a bathtub, with their plastic rocket ships and stuff. So they always want to go into space. He keeps sending rockets up that crash, probably because he's so vile to work with that the best designers wouldn't work for him. I don't know why, Elon, but they don't work. Pet. I mean, think about it. Okay. They always want to extend their own lives. He'll turn to cryogenics, they always do, they want to live forever, like they've got something to offer, are. But they always want to control what people see and hear and think. Right. So he took over the massively successful Twitter that was adored by all its followers and proceeded to dismember it, bit by bit. And as we all know, he lurched to the right himself during that time. And so he's perfectly happy to promote anti Semitic tropes, to put nasty, nasty stuff up everywhere. And the advertisers are pulling out because they don't want their ads next to some neo Nazi conspiracy theory. Duh, Elon. But no, instead of saying, I'm hemorrhaging customers, what am I not getting right here? No, 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 it wouldn't be me because I'm yet another narcissist. So it has to be someone else. So he's launching a vast legal case against Media Matters. Media Matters, a humble little barely funded organization of journalists, right? This is the sort of place where people have to whip the hat around to go for the cappuccinos. So Musk is going to, in his words, go thermonuclear on Media Matters. Well, quietly, I think they'd be saying, you know what, Elon? Do your worst, because here are the screenshots of ads next to neo-Nazi and other heavily, viciously, far-right, insupportable, provocative, unnecessary, unauthenticated garbage, which seems to be your formula. And I think, they will respond in court. It's not as though it didn't happen, Elon. You know, I want to see not about Elon, couldn't care less about Elon, despite the rave. I want to see what happens for Media Matters. Do we need to support them? Speaking of passing around the hat. Surely, good lawyers will put their hands up to do this case pro bono or whatever's necessary. But we're just going to have a quick look from the Media Matters side. What's going to happen with this? Let's have a look. Media Matters. Oh, justice. Look, I think with these cards, this could actually work out quite well for them with a hiccup. So here's Ruth Bader Ginsburg from above overlooking this case. I love that idea, don't you? I think lawyers will come through. here because it's so outrageous. It's so egregious. It's so all those words. A strategy is being talked about as we speak. Look at the globe in his hands. I think this case will be observed internationally. We've got this Five of Cups, which represents a bit of a loss. But we've got to remember with the Five of Cups, it tends to represent losing what you no longer need. It's another aspect to the Five of Cups. The wine spilt, you've still got the water, you can cross the bridge. Maybe it's time. I think this case will affect how other people go forward in the media space with this. And the Fool, I think in a good way, I think Media Matters will take the risk. It will take the risk with this case that will break new ground for others. I hope I'm right? Because if it just ended on that, I'd be thinking, oh, power wins, as it usually does in the judiciary. But this gives me hope. And they could reinvent themselves, just as Cambridge Analytica did all that damage to Hillary and everything else, and then reinvented itself as Emma-Data. So it didn't have a history. That was Rebecca Mercer. Remember all those? So I think Media Matters will get the support they need, and they'll need it because the justice system is so slow, so expensive. And sadly, the reality is you get the justice you can afford. And I'm not just speaking about America, it's particularly the case in America, but in Australia too, you know, the public defenders, they do a great job, but they only meet their clients 10 minutes before they're due in court because they're so overworked and they don't have the resource. You know, I don't have to tell you guys. So it's not a legal playing field. And I think the sooner we all stop pretending it is, the better, which brings us to the gag orders. So judges issue gag orders, then other judges go, oh, well, judges aren't backing themselves up with this, are they? You know, but this is getting really serious now, the New York one, and Georgia too. Well, all of them. You see, it doesn't matter. Wherever there's a Yeti, there is a legal nightmare and a threat to everyone who's working on these things. So I'm going to have a look yet again because the New York judge, his legal clerk, has been threatened and abused. They've now submitted 275 closely typed pages of the voicemails, the threats, the email abuse, and so on. So will this move the dial? Someone has to stand up for people in the workplace. A court is a workplace apart from other things. What's going to happen with this next round of gag orders? Because the other guy, what was his name? He shares the surname Floyd. He's been issued with a really strict gag order, no social media, etc. But let me focus on this. Will the gag order be reinstated? Will it be strengthened? Will it be cast aside over Trump's gag orders? Ugh. Well, what's this about, really? Who's losing sleep? I might have to do a couple of clarifiers on this. Okay. So before I get to these, we've got the King of Swords here, also a senior judicial figure. So this could be the judge who has to decide on the other judge's case or something like that. Now, this one that looks like a young Trump isn't happy with this offer. In other words, I think this judge is going to try and still offer him some wriggle room, but he won't consider it enough. Three of Pentacles. Three of Pentacles. People are wrestling with this decision. I think the real problem is no one in America, I think, is prepared to put an ex-president in jail or do anything to an ex-president. It's like the office is so revered that even though you had a chimpanzee in roller skates roaring around the White House for 4 years, it hasn't. People revere the office, and yet he slags off the office. Maybe this is a lot of people unhappy. Maybe it's Erdogan and his court who aren't happy. Maybe it's the judge who makes the decision who isn't happy having to make this decision. And maybe it's all of you guys not happy because no one makes a decision. There's a radical interpretation. A lot of people. Ace of Pentacles. This is about American values. So how strong are those values really? Are you prepared to defend your judiciary, a major arm of any working democracy, or not? Are you going to pretend, that it's working when arguably it isn't? It's like, I think I'd sum that up by saying more of the same. It'll be a smack on the wrist. He'll ignore it, and then they'll go, I mean, and you could whistle for those fines. Anyway, I bet he hasn't paid the fine. Okay, so we've done Elon, we've done the gag orders. Yeah, just going back to the Georgia case again, Floyd's been given the instruction, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, no social media. Not just saying you can't say this and that, just no social media. I don't know. Now, very important story that's just emerged in the last few days. A very brave Russian woman is running against Vladimir Putin in 2024. 2024 is going to be epic. Now, she's a single mother. She's 40. She's a journalist. Frankly, it's a miracle she's still with us at this point. Her name is Ekaterina Duntsova, and I really want to know what is her future. Opposition candidates don't have a happy time of it in Russia. I guess she's hoping that more eyes on the case. She may survive, but she's massively brave. Massively brave. Katerina Duntsova. How will that work out in 2024 for her? She's got to convince some people with money to protect her. Yeah. Look, I'm not getting the death card or the tower card, but I'm getting lots of difficult, complex things here. So this is holding on to stuff. I think this is part of her secrecy. I think she's in a secret location. I think her financing will be kept secret from the public. I'd move away from that window. If I was her, I would keep moving. There's no doubt, because people are planning against her. That's obvious. You don't have to be a psychic to work that out. Obviously, he would have a lot of people working on it. He would be spending money on it. Okay. I think this is my Biden card. I think she may have already, and if not, she will ask for protection on some level from Biden. That could be really interesting. Could she run the campaign in exile? She's not safe in Russia. Interesting. So I think there's some conversation that may be had with Biden to protect her, as if he hasn't got enough on his plate. But nonetheless, it could be another EU leader. That's a possibility too. This doesn't have to be Biden every time, but I can't think of any offhand who'd go, sure, Ekaterina, come and live at my place. Like it won't be that easy, but she's seeking the protection of a king. Everything's unclear from here on in. Right? Everything's unclear. The wild dog versus the domestic dog. It could be Putin versus her. The pillars of wisdom here. But the pathway is dimly lit, but she may have a portal through it. But she has to keep everything she's doing top secret. She can trust no one. She can trust no one. I think that's gone. That makes sense to me that she's gone for some sort of protection with a Western leader. Either, I heard she just doesn't trust her own security detail because they can be bought off. This mightn't be that she's leaving Russia, but she wants Western protection. Very interesting. We'll have to keep an eye on her story, viewers. So, okay. Now, I've got more things, but I've only really got time for one more. And I think this privatizing of schools, which is code for religious schools. Now, those of you who have followed me for years, I am really not a fan of religious schools. I don't care if it's Protestant and Catholic in Ireland. I don't care if they're madrasas. I don't care what the story is, let alone evangelical fundamentalists. I think it creates an uneven playing field because your citizens are not coming with an internationally recognized curriculum of how to see the world. That's how all this anti-science stuff has taken off and everything else. It dumbs down the country in the end. America got to be a superpower through not just the romance of, we just had these great entrepreneurs, who work people into an early grave to get it when they say, Vanderbilt built the railways or whatever. No, I think you'll find it was the Irish, the Chinese, the blacks, and everyone else who built the railroad. Hello, it's the Mexicans creating the profits for the big supermarket chain. So just leaving all that aside for a minute. Here's the thing. It was a country that had big government when America was successful and making this thing because you got the best, brightest brain. So a working class kid was never that easy to go to college, but it was possible back in the day, etc. Opportunities, recognition of brightness. And now schools, including in Australia, public schools are getting wound down, private schools get more money. As an educator, it upsets me deeply. So this move, banning books, privatizing schools, it makes parents who don't understand how education really works, it makes those parents feel special. I'm doing something special for my kid by sending them to a very special, or homeschooling when you don't know how to get through a curriculum. Homeschooling, if it's done right, can live with that happily. I can see why people go there. Homeschooling to protect your child from this alleged vicious, awful world that would be everywhere outside of your house is a different story, right? A very different story. So the dumbing down of America, how is this happening? Parents are pushing back, which is fantastic. Mums for Liberty. Mums for Liberty, that dreadful organisation of harpies. I just saw a snippet before I came on. One of the Mums for Liberty actually has a conviction for some inappropriate sexual activity. Why is it always them? It's always the hardcore. Okay, so I'm just going to look at the future of public schooling. Oops, what fell out? Oh, not the best card in the world. People are worried about it, but that can be in a good way. That might be stirring voters up. Let's have a look. What does that mean? It can also mean, of course, voters in despair, what to do with it. But parents are fighting back and doing a brilliant job of it. So let's have a look. Well, I think there's going to be massive changes both ways here. Like I said, there's this Nine of Swords. Lots of people aren't happy about this, right? That's good. This is my GOP. Let's pretend we're a happy family and things were so much better in 1954. Well, for some people they were. For lots of others, not so much. Queen of Pentacles, this is sort of like Betsy DeVos or something. This is sort of all the Mums for Liberty. It's that sort of thing. It's these repressive tactics are always under the guise of freedom, liberty, individual expression. But when someone else wants to be individually expressive by being gay or trans or anything else, no, that has to be stopped. I mean, our liberty. Who's that woman who does the comedy? Is it Betty White? Not Betty White, Betty somebody, the best Christian in America? She's hilarious. I'll have to find her. So this is going to be a battle of the women in the end. The sensible moms who want their kids to have an education, and the Harper Valley PTA who want it their way. There's going to be a lot of action and friction and stuff happening. But at the end of the day, a compromise will be reached. And I think the majority of kids will have it. This is also about resourcing, like I was talking about public school, better resourcing. The GOP will fight it, hopefully with a Dem win in 2024. I often wish Obama had pumped more money into public education, but he did what he could with his hands tied behind his back. But I'm just saying, America can't lose another generation to this. So there we go. Go those parents going to school board meetings and beating back these right-wing turkeys. So next time I see you guys, big things, I'll be having a birthday and it will be my 700th video. Okay, so ciao for now. Bye. See ya.